Hello, my Richies, and welcome back to another episode of the Sunday Strategy Sessions here on the Make Life Rich Movement podcast. My name is Sara. I'm your host. And in today's episode, we are going to be tackling the subject of healing your inner child. We are going to come home to our inner child and we're going to start our spiritual healing journey in the parts that need it the most, the tenderest of spaces. So I'm sure if you are at the very beginning of your spiritual journey, like I was in 2010, uh, and soul journey, spiritual journey, all interchangeable, just trying to get right with yourself, trying to like who you are, trying to feel good about what your life is and what you're doing with it every day. I started back in 2010, and the word and term shadow work was certainly not something that was widely discussed. I think we have social media to thank for a lot of these really deep and juicy subjects coming to the forefront and being top of mind for everyone, because this just simply was not a thing, even like as close in time as 15 years ago. So I remember in the beginning of my spiritual journey, there was a lot of just trying to find some type of faith or belief in like the things that are happening to me are happening for me and not to me. And just getting the full weight of that sentence, and it hit me like a ton of bricks one day. And I was like, wow, okay, that means I just need to look at all of this stuff as a lesson and stop being a victim and crying about stuff without putting any action forth to make a change and a difference in my life that would lead these things to occur less and less, just simply because of elevating out of the situations that I was in. And I think as time evolved, boundaries started to come in place. But there was a very distinct moment that truly only happened for me right after my father died, where I realized there were ways that I was reacting and had been reacting throughout my entire life that were imprinted on me at very specific moments within my development and within my life and time period that needed not only a looking at, but a talking to, a reacquaintance with, sweeping out the cobwebs, planting in some beautiful flowers that feel right and healthy and better, and then moving on to the next age group that needed healing. There was a moment where my husband and I were kind of like, okay, like let's look into this, because this, does feel like something that we could get into. And one of the first things that we ended up doing was listening to a book on tape about just interacting with your inner child and kind of getting to know what parts of you felt like they needed a little bit more attention, and maybe recognizing in what kinds of similar moments are these parts of you that need attention rising. Maybe it's in the form of you having like a shit fit and like breaking down and crying, or maybe it's in the form of you getting really frustrated when something doesn't go your way, or maybe it's you shrinking yourself when you start to think that someone may not be prioritizing you or even wanting you around. So many things that are hidden below the surface of our behavior come from our wounds, the parts of us that need healing and attention. So in the first prompt that we ended up doing, we were drawing a picture. And in drawing the picture with your opposite dominant hand, your non-dominant hand rather, and just thinking about a time in your young life where it was your happy place and where you would go by yourself, like as a kid. So I drew the beach where I would run to when I needed like a minute. And it was so crazy. Before this interaction and this little exercise that we did, I had zero idea whatsoever how to talk to any parts of me that were stuck somewhere at a certain time. But this exercise of drawing my favorite place on the beach and where I would play took me to that version of me almost immediately. It was kind of crazy. Tears were streaming down my face. I could feel some of the emotions that age in my life were kind of common at the time. And it was connected to my father's first getting ill, and like just starting to get acquainted with grief, but not really knowing what that was until after he passed. So it was many years that I lived with just like this marred understanding of like fear driving my life because grief was behind the wheel, but I didn't know what grief was. Nor did anyone know what anticipatory grief was. So this exercise really put me down the rabbit hole of trying to connect with and excise the wounds that each level of my childhood had. So today we are going to explore the journey of getting to know your different parts of your inner child, that shadow work, what that looks like, reparenting and what that looks like, and also just getting a really good understanding of who you are beneath the adult facade that we carry around every day in our personality. So, the first place that we're going to start when trying to understand our inner child is looking at it from a spiritual perspective. Our inner child, when it is healed, is the part of us that is the keeper of our joy, our creativity, our wonder, our awe, like the ability to look at something and see it in the eyes of a child, which is, guys, what makes the world go round. It is what we should be trying to work towards every single day of our lives. It is the part of our innocence and youth that got scrubbed away from all of these different wounds over time. And when you do begin to heal these parts of yourself, you will overwhelmingly feel these types of activities and feelings coming back into your life pretty quickly as well. So our inner child is also our emotional truth teller. There is no lying to your inner child. There is no saying you're okay when you're not, because it's going to let you know via cortisol rises, panic attacks, cry fits, anxiety stomach, just overall not really feeling centered or well within your day-to-day life. And like the panic that comes with that and trying to figure out how the heck do I get through this without numbing myself with alcohol or drugs or, devious behavior that's not going to assist you in your healing journey. So the emotional truth-telling side of yourself is going to be ruled by your inner child and your inner wounds or your inner healing. It is also the part of us that remembers our soul's original light. And if that's hard for you to understand, I want you to think about a little person in your life right now that you know. Maybe it's your niece or nephew. For me, it is my niece and nephew. And getting to watch just who they are as an individual come forth and see the things that light them up and see the things that make them sad, see the things that make them feel empathy. It's so immediate. Their belief and their wonderment in just life and the possibility of life. It's like they're not jaded in any regard. And that's the part of us we really want to try to not only tap into, but get to know again and get to know again in a way that feels like it is our day-to-day life. It is how we exist. Now, our inner child also shows up in our adult life through our emotional reactions. It is absolutely going to be coming up in your relationships, especially your relationships with a partner, a sexual partner, husband or wife. Like, it's going to come out, it's going to be present, and it's absolutely going to be something that you cannot avoid no matter how hard you try. If you have those relationships that over and over and over again are repeating themselves, it may be you, friend, and it is likely your inner child that has some wounds that need to be attended to so that you can amend your behavior and elevate. Emotionally, you're going to evolve, and that is going to lead you to make better choices for yourself. Our inner child also shows up in our dreams and our creative expression. So there's a deep part of you that knows that like your passion is golf and you love golf so much. And maybe you missed the pro ring, but like, gosh darn it, you can 100% be the golf expert in your hometown and start training at the local golf centers and golf courses. And that's what you loved doing as a child. And it lit you up and it made you feel alive. And it was the method that you used to connect to people on a spiritual level. Well, your inner child knows that. It's your adult self that is not only pushing that deep down inside, but not even giving you the ability or the authority to even think for a second that that is something that could be an actual option for you. Now, My goodness, there is some really beautiful ways when your inner child is healed that it gives you physical sensations and intuitive knowing. That inner part of you that says, or yes, 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 yes. That's coming from the part of you that knows what's best for you. It's your intuition. Your intuition is so deeply intertwined with your inner childhood self and what it is that your soul needs. Your childhood self is going to know that. And it is not only going to know that, but it is going to try to steer you in the directions via your intuition that are going to lead you to places of better growth, better evolution, emotional evolution, which is so important to any kind of inner childhood wounds that you may have. Now, a really big part of your inner growth when you're looking at the parts of your childhood that need to be healed is the mother wound. And the mother wound is really deeply intertwined with your spiritual growth and whether or not you are going to attain spiritual growth. Now, we're gently going to explore the concept of the mother wound because it is a deep one. And I've done episodes on this in the past. I will put the show notes for that in, or links for that in the show notes. But beyond your biological mother and the interactions that you had with her, there is a level of wounding that is passed down eons over time from generation to generation, culture to culture. And it is one that spurs from patriarchy and the dampening of a woman's not only spiritual power and the way in which a woman is to be the heart and soul of a family and a community spiritually and with God, but also in the manner of just not allowing women to flourish out of fear and out of competition. And the mother wound with your biological mother is one where her interaction with the cultural mother wound, the mother wound of her generation, as well as her biological mother's imprinting on her, is what you are now getting from her. And whether or not she may be aware of it, most are not unless they've done the work on their own mother wound. There is going to be a certain amount of heavy lifting that you yourself will have during healing of the inner child. Now, it certainly affects our ability to nurture ourselves, both externally in our day to day life, as well as internally in the process of healing your inner child. So know that it will not only get easier when you begin to pay attention to the mother wound and be aware of the ways in which it is guiding your life, but it's also going to make it something that you are happy to do. There is going to be a dopamine receptor that attaches to this work and helps you to excise the wounds and get it out, and in turn rewire your brain to feel these pangs of love and dopamine that we so desperately need and deserve. It does have an impact on our spiritual connection, and it is typically one of self-worth. Self-worth in the mother wound is huge. Reading again about the mother wound led me down a path of healing my inner worthiness and my thoughts about my self-worth in a way that, man, I truly understand what self-love is. And in that journey of self-love, I was able to evolve and then include the universe because I was not yet comfortable including the word God. I didn't grow up in a religious household. And it has now evolved to a place where I am very happy and very comfortable to include and elevate that relationship between myself and the self-love that I have with that of God, our creator, and knowing that I have a purpose here. And all of it came from healing my inner child and working on that mother wound. Now, what are some signs of the mother wound awakening? Rather, you becoming aware of the way this programming is no longer driving with how you want to live your life. You have difficulty with self-trust. You have challenges in receiving love or believing in the love you're receiving because you may not have received it from your own mother. You have blocked creativity, blocked passion. You feel very blah in your life. There's no real drive or energy guiding you. And often you will feel a spiritual disconnection where a lot of the energy and the feelings of bleh are coming from. Now, the spiritual opportunities when you are healing the mother wound that are going to become available pretty immediately are that strengthening of your intuition via you reclaiming that divine nurturing energy that you've been so disconnected from because you did not know how to receive love in the first place. There's also going to be that opening of deeper self-love within yourself almost immediately. You're probably going to like boo-hoo cry like deeply and a lot. You're going to feel lighter when you realize that it's never been your fault. It's not your fault. And then you will evolve to a place, I know this sounds crazy, to where you'll be able to forgive your biological mother as well as forgive the patriarchal setup the mother wound has over specifically the United States, as well as other parts of the world. Now, this strengthening of the deepening of the self-love is going to also fortuitously bring your intuition to its highest peak. You are now connecting to the divine, connecting to that greater purpose, knowing you are valuable and worthy of having a purpose and the drive and the energy behind it to make that purpose happen for the overall goal of helping others grow and evolve the way that you have in whatever that special measure is or that special tool or outlet it is that you use. So when it comes to shadow work and the inner child healing, we want to understand how shadow work works through your inner child lens. Now, your childhood coping mechanisms are certainly things that are going to be both very obvious and maybe somewhat subdued in you being able to see within your day-to-day behavior because you've been behaving this way since you were a child. So just know right out the gate, there's a lot of subconscious behavior that will be rewired over time throughout the shadow work. So it will get easier over time to change these habits that you have that were embedded in the inner child work and the wounding that needed to happen. So it gets easier almost immediately, I promise. There is also the ability to really tap into hidden gifts that have been hiding underneath these wounds. And oftentimes we hide the beautiful parts of ourselves when we are engaged with mother wound, not only like interactions of trauma happening, we're making ourselves smaller to make ourselves easier to deal with for the mother because we rely on the mother for life, for sustenance, for love. So often, if you're in a situation where your mother is not able to handle your needs, you will immediately push them deep down because you need to stay in the good light of the mother, both with your biological mother or whatever mother you have and societal mother, in order to stay safe, to stay alive. So when you start unpacking that, you're going to find the hidden gifts and talents within you that you've been afraid to share for the burden of being too much. The opposite of dampening yourself is knowing that if you do shine to your fullest capacity, there's a high likelihood that your mother, whether real or societal, may push you down because they do not want to be superseded in power and gifts and talents and attention and love. Shit gets deep. Okay, guys, stick with me here. Underneath of the hidden gifts, that spiritual purpose of your challenge is going to start to come to the front. You're going to start to say, my God, I was given this life specifically for XYZ reason. And that's why I'm really good at being, able to act immediately and creatively under pressure because I used to have to entertain my parent that but all of that made me the person that I am. And it now leads me to be an amazing creative director for this fashion brand that I love. And like, there are going to be ways you're connecting the dots and you start to find not only humility in these moments, but a lot of forgiveness, both for yourself and the way you judged yourself and for the person that put these things on you, whether it was a mother, a teacher, a close family friend. So many ways in which we are pushed down, both by others and ourselves because of the mother wound and the inner child wounds. So shadow work supports inner child healing by meeting your unmet needs, and not only meeting your unmet needs, but giving you the awareness that they're there so you can start to work on them, as well as embracing all parts of yourself. There's so many parts of us that we push down because we thought they were unlovable, but in reality, all parts of you, good or quotations bad, are worthy of love. They are worthy of way more than love. You have a purpose in this world. You are made for a reason, and you need to start embracing that. You're also going to find wisdom in your wounds. There are going to be so many moments where you start to just be thankful for what you've been through. And you start to really look at them, as I said at the top of the episode, as happening for you and not to you. This is a tool that you've been given, whether if you're a believer from God, whether you think about the universe feeding you the next thing to keep climbing the ladder on your journey, whoever and whatever you believe in, these moments are happening for you, not to you. When you start to do the inner healing, you will notice you were never a victim. You have always been divine, and worthy of everything coming your way, good and bad. And with the suffering comes the sweetness. Without the toil, there is no treasure. And it's sucky and shitty to accept, but that's where we get into the reparenting part of this, which makes it a little bit more difficult, because you will find moments where you're waning within this inner child work and you kind of feel like you need to be reprimanded. But again, what parent is there to reprimand but you and yourself, because you are on this journey and it's your journey alone. So what does spiritual reparenting look like? One, creating a safe space for your emotions, whether that's spiritually or just a physical space where you're sitting down and you're allowing yourself to process things without forcing yourself to get over them quickly. Daily rituals of self-nurturing, whatever that looks like for you, are super, super important. They are not only amazing tools for you to excise all of this work that you're doing, but it gives you a foundation that you can return to day and day again that can give you the safety you may have been lacking in your earlier years of life. It also looks like connecting to your inner wisdom and really trusting and believing in that inner wisdom, which will eventually lead you to trust and believe in the universe, a higher power, God, that is alongside of you and has got your back, and that everything that is happening for you is happening also for the greater good of the world, and that you are being used as a tool to allow this to happen in only the beautiful and unique way that you can. Finally, it's helping you to build trust with yourself. That trust, that belief, that faith, it is so intertwined with the inner child being reparented while, during, before, and after that you are doing this spiritual work. Now, what are some practical spiritual reparenting tools that you can turn to? There's inner child meditation. As I stated at the top of the episode, I did the drawing exercise, and we are going to give you, we meaning me, are going to be giving you some things that you can do in the show notes, as well as a nice little recording that I'm going to have up on YouTube for you to be able to participate in after the show to get started on your inner child work immediately. It is also really cool to utilize emotional healing rituals, whether that be you going into a meditative practice or a visualization practice or going for a walk on the beach. There are going to be so many beautiful ways in which you can insert things that you can do daily or weekly that allow you to tap in with yourself, have a little check-in, have a little convo, and then give a big old spirit hug and get back to doing whatever it is you need to be doing in your day-to-day life. And finally, a really practical spiritual reparenting tool that you can implement today is building spiritual boundaries. Now, it may be difficult to implement boundaries with those that you're around frequently, but you can work really hard to protect your spirit from the energy that you know you don't want to interact with. Whether that is you having the ability to shut that off and protect your spirit, protect your emotions, your heart, or maybe that also looks like you removing that person from having access to you so that it's a lot easier for you to do what you need to do under the cloak of the protection that you've set up with these boundaries. Now, it really is important for you to take away these key themes for inner child work, because I don't want you to over complicate this for yourself, because it's something you can start today. And I'm sure while you were listening to this episode, there were things that were popping up for you that you were like, oh shit, wow, okay, got it. But there is spiritual significance in inner child healing. Whoa. That was my 2:00 alarm. There is also a deepening of the soul that's going to happen. And it may be scary in the beginning because you may not have been able to feel this deeply before for yourself. For yourself, that self-love is going to be so energizing. It's going to rewire your brain and your heart and your soul together in a way that makes you feel complete. It's going to be really cool. I can't wait to hear about it. If you have taken anything from this episode and it has helped you to feel better with what you are working on in your life with your inner child work, it would mean so much to me if you could share that with me, whether it's on Instagram in a DM, or commenting on this episode's reel, or commenting on the comment section if you're in Spotify, or leaving a comment if you're on YouTube. it just would be so, so cool to know that you are getting something good out of these episodes. It absolutely means the world to me to have your time and your attention. If you are so inclined, it would mean the world to me for you to rate, review, and share this episode or the podcast itself with someone you know that would benefit from hearing it. I want to thank you so much for tuning in, my Richies. And as always, make life rich.